We got a few emails like this one from Ray.
Hey, Ray.
This one just came in about 10 minutes ago. Hey, Rob, am I seeing this right? Was Dave Chappelle tackled while performing? Are comedians not safe anymore to stand on stage and tell jokes? I don't know who's safe anymore, to be honest.
Exactly.
So now, of course, everybody's trying to figure out how related to the Will Smith, Chris Rock thing is this, if at all. Or how, and we don't know the motivation yet of the person who did it, but it was last night. Dave Chappelle was attacked by a fan who stormed the comedian's stage and tackled him to the ground in front of the audience during a show in L.A. Video shows a man charging onto the stage, leaping onto Chappelle before getting to his feet and then evading security as he fled off stage. And because it's this Netflix comedy as a joke festival thing, there's all these comedians that are there. And so it's also in LA, so there's all these stars there. So Jamie Foxx, of all people, who was watching the show, rushes onto the stage to help detain the attacker.
Wow.
That's badass.
Eventually,
That's amazing.
the guy is subjected to punches and kicks from Chappelle's security.
Oh, yeah.
Conflicting reports indicate the suspect may have been armed with a gun and a knife, which I have more on that just came out. Chris Rock, who was performing at the event, came out and joked after the fact was that Will Smith. Footage later shows the suspect being treated by paramedics for a badly injured arm before he was taken to the hospital. That's all we know about him. Law enforcement tells TMZ that the attacker actually pointed the gun at Chappelle, although the gun wasn't real.
Oh.
It was a replica of a semi-automatic, but it weirdly had a knife attached to it.
Why?
Oh, God.
And an eyewitness tells TMZ, quote, the mob caught up with him and beat the crap out of him. Same eyewitness says Jamie Foxx and Busta Rhymes got a few licks in on the attacker.
Where the hell was security and the what do they call it, the metal detectors before this guy got in? Like, you think there'd be protocols to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen?
So it's interesting, right? Because at a Chappelle show, they take your phone away. And but apparently they don't take away replica guns with
Keep
knives.
Your knife. Yeah.
And I have always wondered about the security at comedy shows, because I've been to more than a few shows where guys have been heckled pretty hard.
Yeah.
And the security response is like non-existent. And Chappelle just talked last week about his wife being very concerned after the Chris Rock thing, and that he's beefed up his security. Now I've seen the video. The one that I've seen it's pretty grainy.
Oh.
I'm trying to figure out where the hell these security guys were stationed, and how they weren't on the point.
Well, and this is beefed up security.
This is beyond beef.
This is beefed up security, and it's not. And so Chappelle's got his own security, but it's also this Netflix festival. It's pretty jarring that the guy was even able to get on stage, let alone touch Chappelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to the letter writer, this isn't specific to this time period, i.e. Dimebag Darrell was shot on stage. You know, it's never been easy or safe to get on stage and go against the grain or perform or speak your mind. And Dave Chappelle, more than anybody, is leading the charge in being an outspoken artist, even when it's not popular. It's an unfortunate part of it, but it's always been. So like this specific Dave Chappelle thing, or specific to this time period, I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah.
I just the question comes in the prevalence of events within short periods of time. The fact that the Chris Rock Will Smith thing was a month ago gives everybody the opportunity to say, "Oh my God, have we torn the seal off of this? That now it's going to become more common." I'm not saying it is. I think that's what really kind of drives people right now.
In your research, did you find out if Snoop Dogg was attending said event?
I haven't heard anything about Snoop Dogg being there.
There's a video on Facebook and online that I've seen of Snoop Dogg passing a blunt to security guards, and he hits the blunt with Snoop Dogg and hangs out with him. So I'm just guessing these security guards maybe were hanging out with Snoop Dogg if he was there. And not doing their job.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't get high and work, don't get high and work.
See, and I see this the opposite. I see this, Will Smith was just displaying what we've become. Like, I don't think Will Smith made us this way. Like, we already were crazy and acting out, and there's already crime and violence. And even before this, as Queenie brought out, the history of it, but also even modern times, some comedians not even wanting to perform because everyone is overly sensitive, and you're wondering why they're even going to the show. Well, now they're going to be sensitive and angry, and they're going to go just to kick your ass.
This was inevitable, in other words.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that like Will Smith really just he is acting like a buffoon, like the rest of us.
That's what Obama said about Trump, and he was right. Trump's not the problem; he's a symptom of the disease that we are.
Yeah.
It's weak sauce to blame, quote unquote, the Will Smith thing.
Yeah.
On this, but whether or not it emboldens people, I think you're right. This was coming anyways because everybody's sensitive and offended by everything
And angry.
and we're getting more and more angry, and I understand the stupidity of why are you even at a comedy show if you're apparently this was towards the end of Chappelle's set, so you sat there, and I don't know if that the thing with the Chappelle thing is what we don't know, and Chappelle joked afterwards, and it was a joke. We don't know, oh, that was a trans man because he pissed off the trans community.
Yeah.
But with all of that controversy over Chappelle's last special, particularly within the trans community, is this a targeted attack where this guy got tickets to the show? He specifically was always going to attack Chappelle. He sat there and he waited until, all right, he's been on stage, whatever, 45 minutes, I'm going to do it. Or was he triggered? I mean, which would make this more ridiculous? Was he at a show trying to enjoy himself, and then Chappelle made some joke, and this guy, within a few minutes, decides to storm the stage?
The only reason I think it's premeditated is because he had that gun and knife, unless he carries it with him all the time.
Hey, I hope it was premeditated because it makes more sense. Because it's much more scary if it's just, oh, yep, we're good. Because this is what a lot of people, Bill Burr was talking about this a couple weeks ago. Are we literally now going to have to be ready to tell the wrong joke and get stormed on stage?
Yeah, I have a really hard time thinking about the fact that this man thought it was appropriate to be, if it was he's offended by something, first of all, you don't get to go and be offended at a comedy show. You checked your ego at the door. Sorry, it's the rules, get over it. Yeah. That's why I get why more and more comedians are saying don't bring your phone into my show, because no, the person on Instagram doesn't have the ability to check their ego at the door, but you attending, you sure the hell do, so you don't get to be upset. Second, I know Dave Chappelle's not like this, but just thinking about how insane it is that if someone was offended by something he said, they thought it appropriate to go on stage and try to silence a black man. Screw you.
And to your earlier point too, Queenie, something that's not getting a lot of attention because it's happening in small clubs, New York in particular, but other small clubs around the country. Comedians, no-name comedians, are getting more and more violently heckled and intimidated physically. These are the up-and-comers who are trying to work, 6 nights a week, 10 shows a week, and very close proximity, right? You get a picture of the small comedy clubs. They're on stage, literally right below them, people at tables.
Right there.
And there's multiple. You can go to YouTube and see these videos that are out there of people who are they're not charging on stage, but they're standing up. They're walking towards the comedian. They're now toe-to-toe below the stage, and they're yelling at him, saying, "You can't say that. You offended me. You offended my wife. Whatever." And then club bouncers come in and intervene, but it's still people are getting much more aggressive about this.
I feel like that's a combination of everything we've talked about. The person that legitimately wants to go to a comedy show, but then you say something that triggers them, so they go off because they're sensitive, weak, ego, whatever it might be, and angry. And then I feel like you have people that are just specifically going because they want to fight the person. They don't like a certain type of comedy, and they're going to make sure, the person gets shut down.
Yeah, although these small people, that you don't even know what their material is.
That's very true.
You're just in a comedy club.
Well, then you know what? That's worse.
Of course
that is worse to me then. You're actually going because you want to be entertained and laugh, but yet you don't because you're so sensitive. I would prefer that it was somebody who specifically went there, right? You do that, as opposed to, oh no, you actually wanted to come to the show and you wanted to laugh.
Well, because you can, the rule of society. You can joke about everything that I think is funny.
Right.
But the minute you joke about my wife, my political party, my abortion, whatever, my cause, wait a minute. I was laughing hysterically 5 minutes ago, and I am now so angry. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to yell at you and tell you how offended I am.
Yeah, Willem Belli says it all the time that there's going to come a point in 15, 20 years or so where we're not even able to tell jokes anymore, where you literally just can't get on stage and do comedy because people can't handle it. It will only be able to be in a Netflix setting where it's contained, and there could be a disclaimer flashed above the screen and sensitivity warnings and all this different stuff. And it's going to become so intricate to be able to deliver a joke that it'll become not even worth it. And especially, how many people want to put their name and their necks out there anymore to tell jokes when this is the reality of romping around in the industry?
Which of the pandemic specials from South Park was it, where the kid who grows up to be a political, well, it's set in the future, and he's a politically correct comedian, and all of
Jimmy?
and Jimmy's all of his jokes are, you know, a gay guy and a trans person walk into a bar and they get along great and everything's fine, or
Yeah.
The second one.
There's nothing wrong with that.
and yeah,
And there's
Is that
nothing
what it
there's
is?
anything wrong with that.
Everything is there's nothing wrong with it. That's the punchline.
Man, I really hope that comedians still have a backbone after this, and none of them are too really afraid, and this is just kind of like a freak accident. I know they're correlating it to Will Smith's incident, but Will Smith is also a celebrity, and no one knew, like, him walking up onto stage. I'm sure security's like, oh, it's Will Smith, I'm going to let it go. It happened. No one thought he was going to smack Chris Rock.
I don't have any problem with security at the Academy Awards not tackling Will Smith for that exact reason. It's Will goddamn Smith, and you're wondering exactly like everybody else was. Oh, what are they doing? They must have prepared that. What I hope more than anything is that I think we should start tonight. I think they have another show. You should see security on stage.
Well,
you should see the comedian,
Yep.
and you should see in the background on the stage security right there with them.
And the other difference that I love is you're going to get your ass kicked by either other famous people that are there, or, as you already talked about, people that are there that are fans, that are fine with it. And
see, that part I don't like, because look, you storm the stage, you pay the consequences, but this is why we need security. You just alluded to the next level of this. You're when you're talking about big guys, Chappelle, Rogan, I mean stature. Now you're attacking my guy, so now I'm going to get on stage. We don't need this. We don't need some nut getting on stage and then 4 or 5 other angry drunks who love Dave Chappelle getting on stage. And then, wait a minute, now maybe more. Maybe
That's
this guy's friend. I know. That's
for sure.
Lots of security.
What I want is what Queenie said. Here, I want them to come out and say, you don't get to be offended if you're coming to the show.
Check your ego.
Check your ego, period, end of story, or don't go to comedy shows. You might not laugh at every joke, but you can't get offended. This is comedy. It is supposed to bring something out in you, either laughter or like, ooh, I don't know. I mean, it's supposed to be edgy.
What world do we live in where a spoken disclaimer is going to stop somebody who's willing to get on stage?
It's not
and attack somebody.
That is not. But I'd rather that it's that as opposed to we're not going to perform anymore.
They got to perform. This is their livelihood.
Good.
And there's an audience for it. They're not going to stop performing
because there was a time, right, that some of them were like, we don't want to go and perform at these certain places.
And and they just went to different places.
Hey,
they still perform.
As long as they keep performing, great. But I also don't want to. I would rather hear them. They don't have to say anything. But if they were, it's you don't get to be offended. We're not catering to you. Sorry.
Okay. I mean, you can.
I don't know. It's
it.
like, I want to give somebody the what for.
Yeah, but people who are willing to behave this way don't receive the what for.
I know. I know.
It doesn't change them.
It just makes me feel better to hear them standing up for themselves.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, as long as we're catering to your feelings, that's good.
Exactly.
Hello there, Shannon. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
Good morning. Good morning.
I just wanted to say I went to a comedy show here in Sacramento at the Memorial Auditorium on Sunday, and it was Tom Segura.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but anyways, he's a lot, less famous than Dave Chappelle, and they had security everywhere.
Good.
It took us 20 minutes just to get in there. No, it was great. And yeah, they were walking up and down like each aisle, making sure no one had their phones out. No one was causing any problems or anything like that. So, hopefully they can do this for Dave Chappelle in the future.
Well, and again, I got a lot of questions about that. I don't know if we're going to get the backstory on it because Chappelle was so vocal about beefing up his security. Was that somehow was it blanketed down by Netflix because they knew they were filming this and they didn't want certain visuals? Was it tamped down by the Hollywood Bowl because you have venue issues? And the comedians themselves are the ones, they can't leave this up to venue by venue. They have to get better security that's traveling with them and do a better job and a visual job. That's going to be a little more of a repellent than Dawn's verbal disclaimer. If we actually see big dudes,
How about both?
with guns or whatever they're allowed to carry wherever they are, walking up and down or around or guarding the stage, that's going to be the next level of deterrent. Hello, Mackenzie. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey.
This reminded me of a couple years ago. I went to Punchline in Sacramento with people and some friends I'd never met before. And one of the girls was a black girl, and the comedian, small-time comedian, told a racial joke about black people, and she was really offended. She stormed out, and she actually waited around to tell this guy afterwards what she thought. But she was so angry that if that happened like in this day and age, I could easily have seen her throwing something at him, yelling at him inside of the show, or even it's like hitting him after the show.
Yeah. No, because we have moved the line so far, not only of what is considered offensive, but who can say it. Who can tell the joke? So if you're an aggrieved class, you get away a little bit more with joking about other aggrieved classes.
That's why I say the trainee word all the time.
And I think you're absolutely right. Regardless of who it is or what they're offended by, that's the possible next step in small comedy clubs. Rather than storming the stage, we just start throwing things at them because you've got glasses or plates or whatever in front of you.
If even that, I was doing the Bad Bitches Beyond show with my friend Iris Omega. She was hosting that night. She's absolutely lovely and hilarious and so fun. And she told a joke that was a queer joke, and I won't repeat it because one of the words that's integral to it, you can't say on the radio. But the room gasped. And I was just so taken aback by like, okay, are we not all queers here? Why, like, if we're going to go by the basis of the rule that if you're part of the group, then you can make the joke, and then if you're part of the group, you could laugh at the joke. We're not even doing that anymore.
Yeah.
It was a weird, like, gasp moment in the room, and a couple of us chuckled. I fell out because I thought it was hilarious, but it was just fun. Like, I don't know, I'm like, maybe it was just people who didn't feel comfortable laughing at it, but at the same time, everybody, I just don't even know.
So I first of all, I can't tell because it does seem like that rule now is disappearing. That even if you are part of the group, you can't joke about the group. But do you know, Queenie? I know you said it, but I just want to check in. Do we know that the Gaspers were in fact all queer, or are they that? Oh, I'm here to have fun, but I'm straight and I'm going to have guilt for people that I'm going to feel like I have to protect.
Not every queer person wears a sign, although I wish they would, so I would know who to talk to at parties. But no, like maybe it was a bunch of straights. I have no idea. But you're in our space and we're making the joke, so why don't you laugh at it? In fact, I'm offended you're not laughing.
Okay.
Right.
If I was in that situation, I would have definitely gasped. I would have had that guilt. I've been like, oh, is it safe to do that? I don't know. I'm not one of them. Am I allowed to? Oh no.
And I think part of that is you've been conditioned to think that way, right?
Deep down, I would have laughed.
I would have looked around and looked at Queenie. Is it okay? Can I laugh? What's going on? But back to the security part. That guy, you said, sat there for 45 minutes.
I'm guessing it was towards the end of his set.
Okay, so it wasn't in the beginning.
Right.
So he clearly felt not threatened at all by any security. I mean, he clearly felt like he could easily go. He must have been watching, you would think, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Like, he comes prepared or whatever. Maybe he just always carries that thing. Who knows? But he felt, he was not threatened by, because, the girl who called before is saying all the security, walking up and down. You're constantly reminded there's security there. To me, that would say that wasn't happening unless this person was super ballsy. But
I think, and for now, because we're guessing based on the lack of reporting, if we go with the premeditation because of the weapon he's carrying, allegedly, according to TMZ reporting, then he spent the show scoping out the situation and realizing, I can do this.
This will be easy.
Here's my path.
Yeah.
We got this email from Chris. Says it could also be that this is the new version of picking a bar fight to blow off some steam. People are so wound up and looking for ways to explode.
Ooh, true.
It's both. We don't know what last night is yet, but Dawn alluded to that. We have now people that are emboldened because they're offended to act out. And then we have people walking around after the last 2 years in particular, in the last 5 years, quite honestly, who are just angry and they are just ready to pop. And unfortunately, were popping in these physically threatened manners. This email just came in from No Name. Says, why Dave Chappelle if anyone attacked Jimmy Kimmel for lack of comedy? Well,
Right!
There's a whole list of people for lack of comedy that we could be attacking.